On April 30, 2019, a 39-year-old man, Yoon, was found dead in a mountain valley in South Korea. Official cause: drowning. But the truth: he was murdered by his wife. Coldly, calculated, driven by money. Her name is Lee Eun Hae. To some, she's known as a master manipulator and the gaslighting murderer. Investigators would later conclude that the drowning wasn't just a freak accident. It was a setup orchestrated by his wife, Lee Eun Hae, and her secret lover, Cho Hyun-soo. On the day her husband died, his life insurance policy was set to expire in just 4 hours. Their motive? A payout worth nearly 800 million won, about $600,000. Lee Eun Hae, born in 1991, was in her early 30s when she met Yoon. To outsiders, she appeared unremarkable, nothing flashy, nothing suspicious. Yoon, born in 1980, was about 10 years older than her. Yoon was introverted, loyal, and perhaps naive. Friends said he had a gentle personality, almost too kind. He avoided confrontation, and above all, he trusted people easily, especially his wife. He worked as a high-earning researcher at a major Korean corporation, earning over 6 million won per month, approximately $4,500 per month. Despite this, Yoon handed his entire paycheck over to Lee. He even took out loans from his company to meet her financial demands. Eventually, he fell into debt with private loan lenders. Though they were newlyweds, Yoon and Lee didn't live together. His family found this deeply unsettling. They tried multiple times to visit the couple's home, bringing food or offering help, but were always turned away. Yoon, who had once been close with his family, suddenly became distant. He insisted they not come, often saying things were complicated or that Eun Hae was not feeling well. Combined with his increasingly withdrawn behavior and vague explanations, his family began to feel that something was very wrong. Friends said he gradually became more isolated. He lost weight. He looked tired. His text messages became short, distant. People who used to talk to him daily noticed he started pulling away. Emotionally drained and financially broken, Yoon confessed to Eun Hae that he was exhausted and overwhelmed. He said he was barely surviving. The debt was suffocating, loans, bills, and everyday costs piling up with no relief in sight. Eun Hae responded with soft apologies, telling him she hadn't realized how bad things were. When Yoon tried to walk away, she reeled him back in with apologies, soft tones, and expressions of love. It wasn't the first time. This emotional push and pull became a cycle. He was caught in a loop of hope, control, and despair. In one letter believed to be a draft of a will written before his death, Yoon wrote, "If I had about $15,000, Eun Hae said she'd live with me. If I die and the insurance pays out, maybe she'll be happy. But I don't think she'll even come to my funeral." She took control of his finances and restricted his access to his own money. She monitored his spending, limited his personal freedom, and reportedly made him ask for permission to use his earnings even for basic expenses like rent. She pressured Yoon into signing several life insurance policies, even though he was hesitant and couldn't afford the premiums. She had multiple affairs, including a long-running romantic and covertly collaborative relationship with Cho Hyun-soo. According to investigators, Eun Hae and Cho had known each other since before her marriage to Yoon. Their relationship began long before Yoon entered the picture, and maintained a hidden relationship even after she got married. They weren't just romantically involved, they were strategic partners. Evidence revealed that Cho frequently accompanied Eun Hae during meetings, helped her manage Yoon's movements, and even participated in discussions about insurance and financial gain. Their communication logs were filled with plans, strategies, and manipulative schemes. Their relationship was rooted not in love, but in shared self-interest. To them, Yoon wasn't a husband or a human being, he was an inconvenience. Eliminating him wasn't a tragedy, it was the final step in a calculated plan. She lied to others about Yoon's mental state, suggesting he was unstable. That way, if something happened, no one would question it. This wasn't love, it was a setup. The plot to kill Yoon wasn't sudden. It was calculated over time, with multiple failed attempts before the final act. December 2018. First attempt. Eun Hae allegedly served Yoon sashimi, laced with pufferfish toxin, a highly toxic substance that can be deadly if not prepared with extreme caution. Shortly after eating, Yoon became violently ill, experiencing numbness, vomiting, and severe dizziness. Thankfully, he recovered. But at the time, he didn't realize someone might have tried to harm him. He thought it was just food poisoning or a bad reaction, nothing more. February 2019. Second attempt. On a trip with friends to a resort with a swimming pool, Eun Hae and Cho allegedly tried again. Though he couldn't swim, Yoon was reportedly pressured to enter the water. He began to struggle. Witnesses testified that Cho stood nearby, doing nothing, and Eun Hae watched silently. Yoon only survived because others at the resort jumped in to save him. Each attempt escalated in boldness. Then came April 2019. The final plan. Eun Hae, Cho, and Yoon traveled to Yongso Valley, known for its deep waters and rocky currents. It was the perfect place for a drowning accident. They pressured Yoon to jump in, using emotional blackmail and group dynamics. Eun Hae reportedly told him, "If you don't jump, then I will." He jumped. He flailed. He drowned. And Eun Hae simply watched. She didn't cry. She didn't panic. She waited 7 minutes before calling for help. Then, she began the process of filing the insurance claim. What makes this case even more haunting is how long it took to see justice. Despite multiple red flags, Yoon's death was initially dismissed as a tragic accident. There was no autopsy, no immediate suspicion, just a quiet funeral. Why? Because Eun Hae played the part of a grieving wife on the surface. Yet those who attended the funeral recalled her laughing with friends, smiling, distracted. Yoon's family repeatedly voiced their concerns, but authorities initially dismissed them. It wasn't until a public petition gained over 50,000 signatures that prosecutors agreed to reopen the case. After the case was reopened, police found digital evidence that clearly showed what Eun Hae and Cho had been planning. This included search history from Lee's phone with phrases like "How long does it take to drown someone?" and "How to make a death look accidental." Financial documents showed repeated attempts to access Yoon's insurance information and bank accounts shortly after his death. Investigators also uncovered dozens of private messages between Lee and Cho discussing how to manipulate Yoon emotionally, track his movements, and avoid raising suspicion. Just as arrest warrants were about to be issued in late 2021, Eun Hae and Cho disappeared. For over 4 months, they were on the run. They changed phones, moved from one rented room to another, and relied on a network of acquaintances to help them hide. Their names were added to the most wanted list, and the public was asked to report any sightings. Eventually, in April 2022, authorities tracked them down to a small studio apartment in Goyang, Gyeonggi Province. Both were arrested on the spot. In court, Eun Hae showed little emotion. She often stared blankly ahead, even as the prosecution played audio of Yoon's distressed voice from phone recordings. The audio, taken weeks before his death, included statements like, "I can't take this anymore. I have nothing left." A voice, believed to be Eun Hae's, replies, "Then just give up. You're useless anyway." A psychiatrist testified that Yoon exhibited symptoms of severe emotional trauma and depression, likely caused by sustained gaslighting and coercive control. The defense tried to frame Yoon's death as misfortune, but the patterns, the planning, the motive, they all pointed to something darker. In October 2022, the court ruled that Eun Hae was guilty of murder, insurance fraud, and violating the Special Act on the Punishment of Specific Violent Crimes. she was sentenced to life in prison. Cho received 30 years. According to experts, Eun Hae didn't act out of sudden emotion. Her behavior fit the profile of a malignant narcissist, someone who manipulates and emotionally abuses others with cold calculation. She exploited trust, weaponized love, and masked it all with charm. In interviews, psychologists said what makes individuals like her so dangerous is not just the harm they cause, but how invisible that harm can appear from the outside. To the world, she seemed normal, polite, even caring. But to Yoon, she was a storm he couldn't escape. She didn't care how much Yoon suffered. She used his pain to control him, his love to keep him close, and his death to cash in. To her, people were disposable, love was currency, and death, just business. Let Yoon's story be a reminder. Sometimes it's not the strangers who hurt us. It's the ones who say they love us the most. If you found this story compelling, subscribe for more true crime cases across Asia. You've been watching Eastern Noir. Thanks for staying with us to the end.